major question as I travel around the country and in various venues and even on the web, the World Wide Web, which is we get information that people ask, who is or was Frank Silvera? Frank Silvera, he was originally from Kingston, Jamaica, born in 1914, and passed in an untimely accidental death in Los Angeles in his home, and while working on a domestic in a kitchen accident. We lost him, and it just devastated the theater and the arts community because he was our leader. He personified the excellence in the arts and the theater. He had come to Los Angeles to work in films like Viva Zapata starring Marlon Brando, and he brought the first James Baldwin play, which is now classic, Eight Man Corner. Originally brought it from Los Angeles, his company, Frank Silvera Theater being. He brought that to Broadway in 1964. And we said, we need to do something to develop new playwrights, and because there were almost no venues for writers of color to go and to get his or her work read aloud, critiqued, and to put it out there and get some movement. And so it took us a while. I was stage managing River Niger by Joseph Walker on Broadway at that time. And so by 1973, we decided that we would do something, and we booked the theater, which is no longer there now. It's the old, where all those Arthur Miller plays and where Off-Broadway was born in that area down around 34th and Broadway. It was called the Martinique Theater. It's no longer there now. It's gone. But it was a historical area. So at that time, we came in, Joan Sandler of the old Black Theater Alliance, bless her heart, she's still working in the arts and a real supporter, said, go see Hazel Bryant, who is in the Martinique Theater. And we made a deal with Hazel Bryant. You know what I say, if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage.
Hello and welcome to the Frank Silvera Writers Workshop's new play reading series. We're thrilled to partner with the Billie Holiday Theatre to bring you this series. Right after today's reading, we invite you to participate in a moderated critique session. This is a unique opportunity to share your immediate thoughts and feedback directly with the playwright. And now, without further ado, enjoy the performance.
Scorpio'S Tale, a play by Alan Kilpatrick. Characters: Dr. Hussein Ahmed Soltani, a foreign-born psychiatrist; Sergeant Henrietta Cockburn, a police officer. Act 1. Sound of a jet thundering overhead. It fades. Heathrow Airport, London, day. Interrogation room. A sterile environment, a table and 2 chairs. Miss Cockburn, a burly female police officer, sits facing Dr. Soltani, 40s, a thin Middle Easterner. On the table sits a bright red suitcase.
Passport, please.
He hands her his passport, which she peruses.
You look vaguely familiar.
Do I?
Yes, but then so does everyone. Hossein Ahmed Soltani, MD. Are you a medical doctor?
I'm a psychiatrist.
So you are a medical doctor?
Yes.
Then why didn't you answer my question?
Thought I had. Officer, is there a problem?
I don't know, sir. Is there?
Why did you stop me?
I didn't stop you. Customs did. Is this your suitcase?
I think so.
You think so?
I mean, looks like it.
Has your name on it.
Then it must be mine. What is the problem? What have I done?
I don't know. Have you done something, Dr. Soltani?
Of course not. Why do you always do that?
Do what?
Mock me.
I mock you?
You repeat what I say.
Do I? I hadn't noticed. But then I'm not the psychiatrist now, am I? What brings you to London?
I was invited to give a talk.
A talk?
At university.
What sort of talk? Or would that be over my head?
Actually, it was about sociopaths, how to treat them.
I see. And what was your conclusion?
That some people are incurable.
Maybe some doctors are just incompetent.
We do our best. Look, what's this all about? You charging me with something?
I don't know. Are we?
Stop it. What do you want?
What do I want? Let me see. What do I want? What do I want? Oh, yes. I'd like very much for you to tell me the truth.
The truth?
Yes, I'd like for you to answer a question. But before you do, I must advise that you are not obligated to say or do anything. Whatever you say or do might be used as evidence against you in a court of law.
What do you want to know?
Let's start with the basics. Tell me, Dr. SOLTANI, do you know what a lie is?
A lie?
That's right, a lie.
I don't know. Falsehood, I suppose. Something untrue.
Let me ask you this. Is an omission a lie?
What do you mean?
I mean, if you knowingly omit certain facts, certain details from someone, have you then committed a lie?
I suppose. It depends
On what would it depend?
on the circumstances. The person you're keeping the facts from.
Oh, so under the right set of circumstances, it might be more judicious to withhold information than to reveal it. Is that the way you see it?
More or less.
More or less. So there's no real moral imperative to your way of thinking. Everything's situational, isn't it?
Tell me, officer, why are we having this conversation?
Because in performing our due diligence, we found some irregularities in your background, which I would like for you to clarify truthfully.
What irregularities?
Tell me, doctor, since you left your point of origin, has this bag been in your possession?
Yes, of course.
The whole time? It has never left your person on any occasion?
No, just told you.
I know what you've told me. But then how do you explain this?
Cockburn opens suitcase and dumps its contents upon the table. Panties, bras, purses, dresses, blouse, and a makeup kit spill out. Cockburn opens and smells a bottle of perfume.
Nice, but not my style.
That's not mine. That's not my suitcase.
It's not?
No,
It has your name on it.
someone must have switched it.
Think so? Do you think that's highly probable? Hello? What are these? Oh, these look a bit nasty. Very nasty. And did you take them?
Hands him the photos to examine.
No, of course not.
Did you buy them?
I've never seen them before in my life.
Then how did they come to be in your person?
I don't know.
Tell me, doctor, do you like little girls? Naked little girls? Hello? What's this? There's a note. I took these for you. Have fun with them, Georgie. Who's Georgie?
Georgie? I don't know any Georgie.
A friend of yours?
I don't have any friend named Georgie. I don't know anyone by that name.
Dr. SOLTANI, do you know what the penalty is for trafficking in child pornography?
But I didn't take them. I just told you that.
It doesn't matter. These items were found on your person. We can only construe from this that you are engaged in the illegal transport of said images with the express intent to sell and distribute them in Her Majesty's kingdom. By doing so, I'm afraid you've put yourself in rather grave situation.
How many times do I have to say this? I've never seen any of this before in my life. This suitcase isn't even mine.
Of course, you might be just transporting a few things for your wife. But you don't have a wife, do you?
I never said I did.
And we're not accusing you of that, are we? Of having a wife, I mean.
What are you accusing me of?
Oh, we're not accusing you of anything. Yet. Not until we have more evidence. That would be going off half-cocked, wouldn't it? Tell me, Dr. Soltani, have you ever been arrested?
Arrested? No, never.
Are you sure?
Quite.
According to a police report which we received this morning from Interpol, you were picked up in the Liverpool station some 18 months ago for soliciting in a public toilet. Is that correct?
Where? What are you talking about?
The arresting officer, according to our report, said that you attempted to make tactile contact with him while he was seated in the next stall. He said, and I'm quoting now, "The suspect sitting in the stall next to me tapped his right foot 3 times slowly. I immediately recognized this as the signal used by individuals who wish to engage in lewd and lascivious behavior. He subsequently moved his right foot under the metal divider and touched the side of my left foot with his. Then I saw his left hand emerge under the stall with the palm facing up, whereupon I proceeded to arrest him."
That wasn't me.
It wasn't? You don't recall being arrested?
I don't recall it because it never happened. I was never arrested. You've obviously got me mixed up with someone else. If you ask me, this whole thing sounds like entrapment.
Entrapment? Do you know what entrapment involves, Doctor? Legally? A person is entrapped when he or she is induced or persuaded by a law enforcement officer to commit a crime that he or she had no previous intent to commit. That's entrapment.
Thank you for letting me know. If you're not going to charge me, then could you please tell me why you're keeping me here?
Why are we keeping you? That's a very good question. Because it's one thing for a man to be transporting women's things or a few dirty pictures. It's not that uncommon, actually. But the one thing we can't just overlook are the traces.
Traces?
We found traces on your suitcase of triacetone triperoxide.
What's that?
You don't know?
Would I be asking if I knew?
It's a compound often used by suicide bombers. Tell me, does the name Ali Mohammed Abdul Rahim mean anything to you?
No. Should it?
I don't know. Should it? Doctor, are you a member of a terrorist organization? I rather think you are.
Good God! Is this what this is about? You must be joking.
Oh, I'm not joking, but I think you are. And I've got to hand it to you. You're a real clever bloke, aren't you?
How so?
The way you've been putting me on.
I haven't been putting you on.
Oh, yes, you have. It's really amazing the length to which you people will go.
I've told you everything.
You see, the problem with your story, the problem with what you've said thus far is simply this. I don't believe you.
Told you the truth.
No, Doctor, what you've told me is a very cleverly wrought cover story, the purpose of which has been to subvert, and I don't use that word lightly, to subvert my investigation of your illegal comings and goings.
What more can I tell you?
I don't know. What more can you tell me?
I've told you everything.
No,
Everything!
Dr. Soltani, you've told me what you thought I wanted to hear. But that's not everything, is it?
For God's sake! What do you want to know?
You're a reasonable man. So consider my situation here. What I have sitting here before me in my office is a foreigner with very questionable motives. Someone who has something in their past which they don't wish to speak about. Someone who cannot account for their own property. Someone who's been detected transporting illicit pornographic pictures and possible bomb devices linked to certain recognized terrorist organization. In short, Doctor, we're speaking about you.
How long do you plan to keep me here?
Till you cooperate. Full stop.
I want to see counsel.
We'll see what we can do.
I said I want a solicitor.
I heard what you said, and I said we'd see what we can do. You see, Dr. Soltani, we have probable cause to detain you, which means we can detain you as long as we like, you being a foreigner and all.
So that's it, is it? What do you have against foreigners?
What do you mean?
I mean, you don't like them, do you?
I wouldn't use that word.
What word would you use?
Look, Doctor, it doesn't work that way.
What way?
Your way, with me answering your questions.
I just wanted to know how you felt, that's all. I thought it might help us to get to the bottom of this horrid mistake.
The only way to get to the bottom of this horrid mistake, as you put it, is for you to answer my questions.
But I have answered your stupid, idiotic questions.
I don't think so.
What more can I say?
You can stop hiding things.
I'm not hiding things.
You're not?
No. Officer Cockburn, can I ask you something?
What?
You won't get offended.
Depends what it is. What is it?
Have you ever tried therapy?
Me? Therapy. Whatever for. Therapists for wankers and pervs.
Well, I think you should. It might be helpful in your case.
Oh. In what way?
Help you self-examine, work through complexes, alter some of your behaviors.
My behaviors. There's nothing wrong with my behaviors. You're the one who needs looking into, Doctor. Bet you make quite a nice living of it, telling people where to get off.
Soltani turns to speak to the audience.
Well, I hope you can appreciate my situation. Here I am, captive to this obviously very disturbed individual who thinks she's got some sort of legal authority over me. I mean, it's your very worst nightmare come true, isn't it? Not only is she grossly ignorant, not to mention decidedly unattractive, but also she's obviously projecting all paranoid fantasies upon me. In normal circumstances, could work through these issues out in therapy. I doubt whether she'd ever dare to raise a finger against me, but somehow someone's put her in charge, and now she feels absolutely justified to torment and to persecute me. I sense that she won't stop playing these hideous games until she's completely humiliated and degraded me.
Cockburn turns to speak to the audience.
Thinks he's the clever one, doesn't he? Bet he got his polish at one of those posh public schools. Bet he drives one of those late model sports cars and fancies himself God's gift to women. Well, it's all veneer, isn't it? I mean, I can see right through him. He's a gamer. That's what he is. And up to no good. Knew it the minute I set eyes on him. Thought he'd just breeze past me, him and his fancy words. No security check for Dr. Soltani. No, he's too good for that. Well, there's types, and then there's types that come through here. You've got to keep your guard up. Just the other day, had me a nun with a wooden leg. Sisters of Mercy, she claimed she was. Hollowed out with contraband. The dog sniffed it out. See, in my line of work, you've got to rely on your instincts. You got to develop a nose for things, especially these smooth types like Dr. Soltani.
Back to scene.
So, you have nothing to say.
What more can I say? How can I make it any more explicit? I know nothing, absolutely nothing about this damn suitcase. It's not mine, never has been. I've never seen it before. I'm willing to swear to this in a court of law. Give me a polygraph if you don't believe me.
Oh, you'd like that, wouldn't you?
Like what?
To take a polygraph. Give you a chance to show off all that smooth professional training of yours. But you think you could damn well make a fool of us, don't you? Put yourself in some sort of hypnotic trance and sail right through the whole thing without registering a beat.
If you mean that I'm convinced of my absolute innocence, yes. Look here. I want to speak to your supervisor. Let me speak to who's in charge.
I don't have a supervisor.
What? What do you mean you don't have a supervisor? There must be someone over you.
Why?
Because that's the way things work normally.
Huh? Do they? Are you sure? Or are you an expert in that as well? The way things normally work.
There must be someone else I can
Talk to? You'd like that, wouldn't you? Oh, I can just hear you. That Henrietta Cockburn, she's a real nasty piece of work. Overstepping her authority, violating my rights. That's what you'd like to say, isn't it? Isn't it? Well, the only problem with that is there's no one else. I'm solely in charge of this case. So I'm afraid you'll just have to deal with me. You know, you could do worse than me. A lot worse. There's a chap, works in the department. They call him in when there's reason. Say, a hard case, like yours. They call him in, and he breaks them down. He's kind of a specialist that way. I don't know how he does it. I mean, I don't know his methods exactly. But he's known to be very, very effective.
Oh, really? Have you ever met this man?
No,
You've only heard about him?
that's right.
So you've never actually seen him.
I just said that.
So how do you know he even exists? It could all be a lot of rubbish.
Oh, I know he exists, all right. I've seen his file. I know for a fact he's a Scorpio, like me.
What does that mean? A Scorpio like you?
Means he's a water sign. Means he's ruled by Mars. Means you don't tread lightly on a Scorpio. We sting, Dr. Soltani. Look, I'm tired of playing games with you.
We're not playing a game.
Well, I guess we'll have to see about that. I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to undress.
What?
I want you to take your clothes off.
Why? Whatever for?
We need to do a proper search. Take your clothes off.
No, now that's the limit. I'm not going to.
But shall I call assistance? They'll be here in a flash. They're very thorough, you know. The only problem is they can be rather rough. The last fellow who made a fuss, they dislocated his jaw. Had to wire the whole thing back together again. Now, I won't tell you again. Take off your clothes. Take everything off.
You're going to hear about this. I'm going to report you.
Strip!
Reluctantly, Dr. Soltani starts to undress as Cockburn puts on a pair of plastic gloves to begin the physical exam.
Now, that's a good lad.
Lights go down. End of Act 1. Act 2. Sound of a jet thundering overhead. It fades. Interrogation room a few minutes later. Soltani sits stripped to his underwear. His clothes lie in a heap on the table. The floor is still strewn with bras, panties, makeup, accessories, etc. Cockburn strolls around holding a clipboard and a ballpoint pen.
May I have my clothes back, please?
Are you cold?
Could do with my clothes.
All right, then. I'll return your things. But first, I want you to sign this.
She drops the clipboard in front of him and offers him the ballpoint pen.
You're letting me go?
I didn't say that. I said, sign this.
What is it?
It's your statement.
My statement?
Your admission of guilt.
But I'm not guilty. I've never admitted anything.
You needn't. I've done it for you.
But this is ridiculous.
What is ridiculous? Your situation? I wouldn't call it ridiculous. I'd call it precarious.
You have no authority to do this.
But I do, don't I? I have full and absolute authority. You know, I get so tired of dealing with you people. You weak-kneed, tea-sipping intellectuals looking down upon the rest of us with this permanent snare across your face. The world could do without your armchair philosophers, your blown-up egos, your half-baked theories about how society's gone so completely awry. Afraid to dirty your hands, are you? Well, I'm telling you now, you'd better sign this, Dr. Soltani.
I will not.
I won't ask you again.
Silence. Thundering noise of a jet passing overhead. It fades.
All right. If that's the way you want it. I want it on record that as of 9:17 a.m., the suspect refused to cooperate with the ongoing investigation by Officer Henrietta L. Cockburn. I've tried to be reasonable, but I'm done with it.
Reasonable? Is that what you call this? Reasonable? Accusing me of all sorts of crimes I never committed?
Oh, you've committed them all right. And much worse, I suspect.
How do you know that?
Cockburn takes out her nightstick and pounds it on the table to make her point.
Because it's all right here, Doctor. Written down in your statement.
Give me that.
He lunges for the table, reaching for the document. She counters, smacking him hard on the hand with her nightstick. He screams in pain and crouches on his knees.
Damn it, woman! I think you broke my hand.
Did I? I didn't notice. But then, I'm not a doctor, am I? You're not walking out of here without signing this paper. So you might as well get that out of your head. The only way out is for you to cooperate. Are you willing to do that?
No.
She strikes him in the head and he falls back. Then she leans over him in a consoling voice.
Are you hurt? Are you injured? Say something.
Piss off, you filthy cunt. I hope they crucify you for what you're doing.
And what am I doing? All I'm doing is interrogating a very uncooperative suspect. I have another procedure, you know. Shall I use it? Would you prefer that?
I don't care what you do. What do you mean? What procedure?
Flashing her nightstick.
You see, we have a little procedure for prisoners who prove a bit recalcitrant. Tell me, Doctor, when was the last time you had a good enema? I mean, a really good, hard, deep enema.
Cockburn starts to move towards him menacingly.
No, God, listen. No, wait. Let's talk about this. Can't we talk about this? We're two civilized human beings, aren't we? Officer, can't we talk about this?
All right. I'm listening.
She sits down across from him and taps the table with her nightstick.
Can't we work something out here?
What do you mean, work something out?
I mean, it must be obvious that I'm not a terrorist. And I don't know anything about these women's clothes. I'm not a pornographer. I mean, the whole thing's ridiculous. Why can't we just forget the whole thing? Let me go. I won't press charges. The whole thing's just a mistake. Don't you see that?
Henrietta Cockburn does not make mistakes. Not when the evidence is right in front of her face.
Henrietta, look.
Is that what they do?
What? Do what?
Train you to do that at hospital? Pretend to establish intimacy with the patient, set them at their ease, so you can put on like you're a caring, compassionate person?
I'm a caring, compassionate person.
A caring, compassionate person would not find themselves in this situation, Dr. SOLTANI. I'll ask you one last time. Are you willing to cooperate or not?
Wait, what happens? What happens if I sign that?
What do you think happens?
Don't know. That's why I'm asking. Don't I get counsel?
Do you want counsel? Personally, I don't see that it would do any good, at least not in your case. The courts tend to go a bit hard on lying, murdering, pornographic foreign terrorists.
Is this why you're doing this? Because I'm a foreigner. What do you have against foreigners?
Did I say that? Did I say that I don't like foreigners?
Sure seems that way.
Well, let me clarify something for you, Doctor. For the record, I don't like criminals. People who come into my country with the express purpose of committing some capital offense. Those are the people I have a problem with. Do you think it's easy doing what I do every day? Do you? People making excuses, lying to your face? Oh, and the men I work with, pigs, all of them, making fun of me behind my back just because I've put on a few pounds. And then there's that Jenna, the new girl, getting all the winks, getting all the easy shifts, just because she's young and sleeping with that Mr. Dunn David. Makes you despise the whole damn race. Makes you never want to trust or to care about another human being. Believe it or not, I was once a trusting, open-hearted person. Before I secured my present employment, I had an occasion to experience some disappointment in life. Once I had a beautiful little friend with whom I could share my deepest, innermost thoughts and feelings. Well, it didn't turn out well. No, not at all. Took me a long time to get over that.
Henrietta, we all experience some disappointment with other human beings. It's all part of...
Don't interrupt me. I was speaking of my cat. You see, Dr. SOLTANI, I once had a cat. A beautiful, loving cat. Used to sleep next to me every night, nestle her little nose into my neck. Could hear her breathing. Minerva, that was her name. Then one day she got sick. I don't know how, but she just stopped eating. Wouldn't go near her bowl. So I took her to the vet. And you know what he said? This doctor. There's nothing more to be done. It's best we put her down, just like that. But I tried arguing with the man. I didn't know what to say. You see, I said, couldn't you give her something? He said, we can give her something for the pain, but she's got a growth inside her and it's only going to get worse. No, the best recourse, that's the phrase he used. The best recourse. He told me that they could take her into his office so I wouldn't have to watch. But I said, no, I want to hold her while you do what you have to do. He said, it's 2 quick shots, one to make her sleep and the other to stop her heart, her breathing. I took one last look at my poor, sweet Minerva, the love of my life. Her eyes were far away, like she was looking at something out there. She didn't seem to notice me at all.
So that's it. That's what this is about. You're blaming me because I'm a doctor.
Somebody has to take the blame.
What
the fuck are you laughing at? Stop it! Stop laughing! What are you going on about? I won't have you making fun of my cat. I won't allow it. You hear me?
I'm not making fun of your cat. I'm laughing because the whole thing's so bloody ridiculous. Don't you see? I'm here in my knickers, charged with God knows what, and you're making me listen to some maudlin little tale about a dead cat. Don't you think it's a bit ridiculous?
Ridiculous? To you, maybe, but not to me. Not to a caring, feeling person like myself.
A caring, feeling person? Now there's a joke. You're holding me here, against my will, packing yourself into some men's pants, pretending to lord it over me with that cheap badge on your chest, getting your revenge on men, just because they won't give you a second look? Don't you think I've got better things to do than to waste my time listening to your shit-faced soap opera of a life? You raving malcontent. I mean, who the hell do you think?
Shut the bloody fuck up!
She starts to strike him again. He ducks. She restrains herself, composes herself.
I was going to let you off. I was going to let you go with a warning, mind you. But now I'm not so sure. Now I'm not so sure you don't pose a threat, a real threat to the health and safety of others.
You're the threat, you raving lunatic.
She stands up and starts to walk out, halts.
I'm going out that door to freshen up. I want you to think about what you've just said to me and what you've done very carefully. And when I return, I want to find your signature on that document. Otherwise, things are going to get very nasty in here, Dr. SOLTANI. Very nasty.
Lights dim for a moment. Sound of another jet. It fades.
Officer Cockburn.
What?
All right.
All right, what?
All right, I'll sign it.
Knew you'd come around.
On one condition.
Condition? What condition?
You admit something.
Admit what? What are you going on about?
Admit that you have made certain mistakes.
What do you mean, mistakes?
In the course of doing your duty, made certain errors.
Not in this case.
I'm not talking about this case.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about another case. An incident. Last fall.
What incident? What the bloody hell are you going on about?
You remember, don't you? There was a demonstration at Heathrow a few months ago over the G2.
So? What does that have to do with you?
Me? Nothing. It's more to do with you, actually.
Me?
You don't remember. You were on duty that day, weren't you?
I was called in, yes. They needed help with crowd control.
So you helped out.
Of course I did. All those foul-mouthed bastards with their dirty fingernails and their little protest signs, they scattered fast enough when they saw Mr. Tommy here.
She takes out her baton and thumps it on the table.
Mr. Tommy doesn't like dirty, disorderly people, especially if they hold radical points of view.
So you used Mr. Tommy.
Damn right I did. And I was well within my rights. Told them to disperse. They all heard me.
But you hit an innocent bystander.
He wasn't innocent if he was there.
But he was innocent. He was just passing through.
It was a restricted area.
But he was just passing through.
He was in my line of fire. He was where he shouldn't be. I ordered him to remove himself.
He was just getting off work, going home. Wasn't protesting. Sold magazines and sweets, for God's sake. You clubbed him anyway, didn't you?
I ordered him to remove himself.
But maybe he didn't hear you.
He heard me all right.
You clubbed him anyway and sent him to hospital. And the man you struck with, Mr. Tommy, he had a coronary, brought on by head trauma, at least what they surmise. At any rate, he died.
How do you know about this?
Well, it was in the papers.
So you saw it there, in the papers.
It was in the papers.
But the part about me, the part that mentioned me, that wasn't in the papers.
I didn't read about you in the papers. I saw it in your file.
My file? You read my file?
I had to.
What do you mean you had to?
They brought me in to investigate.
You brought you to investigate me? For your information, I've already been investigated. There was an inquiry, an official inquiry, accidental death, they ruled. Plain as day. If it was something else, they would have brought me up on charges. Only that didn't happen. In fact, they cleared me of wrongdoing.
Not completely.
What do you mean, not completely?
Some of your superiors had doubts.
Doubts? They never said that.
Sometimes they don't.
During this exchange, Sultani strolls around, picking up a stray bra and panty from the floor.
We went over your whole arrest history. It seems like there are a lot of incidents, a lot of cases thrown out, a lot that never even made it to court.
It's hard to get a conviction.
Especially if the court finds you guilty of excessive use of force, falsifying evidence, intimidation, the coercion of prisoners.
Well, like I said, there's people in this department that's had it in for me from the start, from the very start.
But you've been rather creative on your own, haven't you? Evidence appearing, disappearing at will, like this red suitcase, for example.
Sultani teasingly models the bra and panty.
It's the system. If you want to get ahead, you have to be creative. Believe me. You're having a go at me, aren't you? Well, I knew you was a clever sort of bloke. First time I laid my eyes on you, I said to myself, Henrietta, you've got to watch yourself with that one. Now I can see where you're headed with this. I can tell you right now, there's no real evidence that Henrietta Cockburn has ever, and I mean ever, overstepped her bounds.
What about the G2?
What about it?
What about the witness who came forth?
Witnesses are unreliable. You know that.
They can be, certainly, but not this one,
And why not?
because he happened to film the whole thing on video. There's a copy upstairs. You want to have a look at it?
No, I don't. What are you trying to get me to say? Looking for another patient, are you, Dr. Soltani? Well, you won't get anything out of me, not one single word of contrition, not one tiny little breath of, I'm sorry. People get what's coming to them. Simple as that.
Even you?
Gonna snitch on me, are you? Report me to the higher-ups? Is that your game?
Did you know the man's name? The one you clubbed to death?
I don't recall.
You don't remember?
I said I don't recall. It doesn't come to mind.
It was Soltani.
Was it now? Was it really? Like you? A bleeding foreigner. Getting back at me, are you?
No relation, actually.
You have a lot of nerve putting this in my face. Well, Henrietta Cockburn is no racist. If that's your game, I don't care where people come from, as long as they respect the law. Don't go no further than that with Henrietta Cockburn. It's fair. Always has been. Always will be. Fair.
It's amazing to what lengths we will go to deceive ourselves.
What did you say?
Nothing.
Tell me, since you're in the know, Doctor, how long has this investigation, as you call it, been going on?
For a while.
They brought you in to entrap me. Is that it?
Trapped yourself.
How so? Because some unreliable witness filmed me clubbing some protester, which I might add, I was well in my right to do so?
No, because they've been watching you for hours. From up there.
Soltani points to the ceiling and Cockburn stares hard at it.
You're joking. Really? You mean they're recording?
That's right.
You sure? I mean, I don't see it.
You don't see what?
I don't see how it's possible.
Oh, it's quite possible, all right. In fact, I was there when they were installing the equipment.
Really? Well, that's a surprise, isn't it? A real surprise. What do you think they can see?
Everything. What did you say?
Nothing.
Cockburn leans over Soltani and speaks in a conspiratorial whisper.
Look now. If I was to let you go, I mean, if it was in my mind to do that, what would you tell them?
I guess I'd have to tell them the truth.
The truth. You say that with such conviction.
I would have to be truthful.
I imagine you would. I mean, I imagine you'd have to be. But you'd say nice things about me, right? I mean, you wouldn't try to make more of this than it is, right?
I never asked you to overreact.
Overreact? I was just doing my job.
Which was?
To get the truth out of you.
And did you?
Did I what?
Get the truth out of me.
I got what I thought was the truth. That's all I was supposed to get.
But didn't you go a bit far?
No. I I never did anything improper. Never. Henrietta Cockburn's fair. Always has been, always will be. Fair.
Think so.
What do you think is going to happen? To me, I mean.
What do you think's going to happen?
But I don't know. Given the way things are.
I suppose there'll have to be another inquiry.
Well, I can tell you right now, some of them blokes, they'll want to give me the boot. Won't even listen. Won't hear my side. They'll want to charge me. Have to stand trial like some bleeding criminal.
Well, I don't know. Of course, there could be extenuating circumstances.
What do you say?
I said it's possible there could be extenuating circumstances.
Extenuating circumstances. Yes. That's it. That's the key. They'll see that I had good cause, that I was well within my rights. They know I'm not a person to get carried away. They all know that. They know where I stand.
Henrietta, do you really believe that?
Believe what?
That you're blameless, that you're innocent, that you had nothing to do with this?
I believe that this was just a misunderstanding.
A misunderstanding.
You said it yourself. You did.
Soltani gently takes Mr. Tommy from her.
Henrietta,
What?
we better go.
Go? Where? Where are we going?
Upstairs. Mustn't keep them now.
You're very good at this, aren't you, Doctor? Turning things around, getting people to admit things so they don't make any sense.
That's my job.
But Soltani isn't even your real name. You're not really even a doctor, are you? Surely you can admit that to me now, can't you? You can admit that. Oh, bloody hell. Who needs you? Who needs any of you? I'll get by. Always have. Always will.
Someone once said, in the end, all we have is ourselves.
Who said that?
Nietzsche,
Who's Nietzsche? Does he work here?
we better go.
Cockburn freezes in contemplation. Soltani starts to collect his clothes on the table. Suddenly, Cockburn thrusts her hand over his.
Wait. Before we go, there's some things I need to know.
What?
There's some things that need clarification.
What do you mean?
I mean, I'm not quite sure I'm satisfied with some things you said.
What things?
You said you were asked to investigate me, right?
Right.
Who asked you to do that?
What do you mean?
Who asked you to investigate me specifically?
Told you. The superiors.
Who are my superiors? Who do you report to? Who's in charge?
I can't disclose that.
Why can't you?
Because I was told not to.
Maybe it's because you don't know. And since you're so well acquainted with my file, who's my immediate superior?
Your immediate... I maintained you didn't have one.
I lied. Mr. Dunn-David is acting head of section. It's in my file. You'd know that if you'd actually read it.
What are you getting at? Look, I don't recall all the names. We'd better go.
Not so fast. You said they were waiting upstairs.
That's right.
There's a problem with that, Doctor. You see, the office isn't upstairs. It's actually down the hall. Upstairs is all sealed up. Has been for months. Asbestos. Workers found asbestos, a big health risk, as you know, being a medical doctor and all. No, I don't fancy anyone crawling around up there risking life and limb just to rig up a camera. Do you?
That's what I was told.
Who told you? Nietzsche?
Cockburn retrieves Mr. Tommy from the table.
You're a smooth one, all right? Real smooth. Had me going for a while. That business about the G2? A lucky guess, wasn't it? Of course, there may have been something about me in the papers. By the way, the man at the G2 wasn't named SOLTANI. I recall now it was Myers. This whole internal investigation, it's all rubbish. You concocted the whole thing, didn't you? Just to save your miserable, stinking hide.
In a panic, Sultani grabs his clothes and starts to leave.
Sit down. You heard me? I said sit down.
Sultani cringes and takes a seat. Cockburn taps Mr. Tommy.
I think we better have another chat before we go upstairs or downstairs or wherever the bloody hell we're going.
Don't believe me.
Obviously not.
So you think this whole thing was a ruse?
A lie, a hoax, a deception, a complete fabrication. Take your pick. I have to hand it to you. You certainly know how to manipulate the facts. That little story of yours, it would have washed if you'd kept it simple. But no, you had to go muck it up, make it all fancy. Cameras in the ceiling, them waiting for me upstairs. You went too far. You overdid it.
What are you going to do?
We're going to have a little chat. Start from the beginning. Sort this thing out properly.
She taps Mr. Tommy.
What do you want to know?
Well, for starters, who's this Nietzsche bloke?
No one. Philosopher. He's dead.
Really? Well, good for him. At least he's off the hook. Now, let's talk about you, Doctor.
They freeze, stare at each other. Sounds of a jet taking off. End.
Thank you so much for joining us today for Scorpio'S Tale by Alan Kilpatrick and directed by Garland Thompson Jr., featuring Avi Cohen, Bernice Miller, Hannibal Taboo, and I'm Kimberly Gunn. Before we get into our moderated critique session, we'd like to tell you about our upcoming events and what's coming up. Next, we have Who You Kiss for Fun by Emma Wiley. That'll be Sunday, October 26th at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can go to the Zoomcatchers or the FSWW website for more information about that reading. And now I'd like to turn it over to Byron C. Saunders, no stranger to the Frank Silvera Writers Workshop, who will tell you more about how you can support the arts.
Yes.
Take it away, Byron.
Well, I'm right here, and I'm all the way coming to you live from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Enjoyed the reading, but most importantly, we're celebrating the Frank Silvera Writers Workshop's 50th anniversary. And what does that mean? That means for 50 years, this organization has been giving to you readings on Monday night series that used to be in New York. Now we're on the global community, the network that's bringing you the Zoomcatchers and the readings here. But most importantly, we're coming to you live and into your living rooms, into your parlors as you help us to give birth to new plays. This is what we've been doing for 50 years. And now we're asking you to help support us as we celebrate our next 50 years. And how do you do that? Well, you can give us a donation. There is a box here in this format that will allow you to click on it and it says make a donation. That's so critical to us. We're trying to raise 50,000 for our 50th anniversary and you can help us. Now, I've got a card. I'm going to hold this up to my camera. I'm not so sure you can see it, but there's a QR code on there that suggests that if you can actually take the picture, you perhaps will even direct link on critically to online and support here. But go to Frank Silvera Writers. There it is. I see the form up there in the top of your right-hand corner. It says make your donations by pledge here. Hit the OK button, and immediately all money is good money. There's no bad support. So you want to give $3, $5, $10. This is great. Oh, I think I just saw somebody click that $3. Yes, thank you for that $5 and that $10. Help us celebrate our 50th anniversary as we are bringing you green screen technology. We're into the 21st century now, and this is why, as when I was the executive director, we won the Obie Award for playwriting development. And as Garland Sr. would say, if it's not on the page, it ain't on the stage. This is how we give birth to new works all across the diaspora. And with your support, we can continue to do this, celebrating every news story from our communities to bring it to your communities. And at least once a month. And then on every other year, celebrate with us as we celebrate the Black Theater Festival, the International Black Theater Festival, right here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Any event, what a wonderful reading and way to kick off our 50th anniversary season this month. So we're going to turn it back over to Garland and to Zoomcatchers, Kimberly, and the cast. Thank you so very much. I enjoyed both of your readings. A whodunit, a mystery. I like that, as they say, the switch. So we can talk about the switch. Back to you, Garland and Kimberly. You're welcome.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome people to stay and join the moderated critique session. Today's session will be moderated by Garland Thompson Jr., Executive Artistic Director of the Frank Silvera Writers Workshop. Please feel free to use the raise your hand feature at the bottom of the toolbar to go on the mic, or you can put your comments and questions in the chat or the Q&A. We appreciate constructive feedback. Also, please put into the chat and tell us where are you watching or listening from. And now I welcome Alan Kilpatrick and Garland and the rest of the cast to the stage. Congratulations.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone who's here today, who's joined us. I see we have some of our regular members of the Frank Silvera Writers Workshop community, a couple of our playwrights. Hello, Jason. I see 555. I see Jason Smith, 555, Bill Vila, and Rhonda Passion Handsome, our director and playwright and actor friend, and others, as well as some other friends. Hello to Stacy and everybody else out there. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate y'all being here today for this very interesting piece, Scorpio'S Tale by Alan Kilpatrick. And we are here to do the moderated critique session. Now, one thing, Kimberly, I don't see myself here on the main screen here, but I know you'll take care of that. This moderated critique session, now, if you notice, we do say moderated critique session and not what is the more fashionable term today, talkback. And that's because there's a big difference for us. What we are here to do now is to spend a little bit of time having a conversation as we critically analyze this piece, as we take a look at, put our critical analysis hat on and look at this play and attempt to provide some feedback that can be very helpful, hopefully, to the playwright. This is the first time, one of the first times that this play has been read out in public. It's definitely still under development. And we're So we're here to try and elicit that kind of feedback. So we're not here necessarily to interview Alan, the playwright, and find out why he did this, why he did that. If he wants to reply, he's absolutely welcome to. But we're here to give him a chance to listen to all of you and to hear what you have to say. And we've got a couple of questions as well. Joining us is our cast members, Avi Cohen, who played Dr. Soltani. He's in Israel. It's very late in the evening for him, and he's got a very early call tomorrow, so he had to dip on out of here, but we thank him very much. As Kimberly said, this is truly an international endeavor today. Our playwright, Alan Kilpatrick, is beaming in from Belgium. We had Avi from Israel. We have Vernice, who is in New York. Thank you, Bernice. We have Hannibal, our narrator, with that incredible voice, those dulcet tones of his, coming to us from Los Angeles. And then, of course, we are out here in Oakland as well. So we truly are international. So we really appreciate that. So right now, that's what we're going to do. There's some couple of questions, I think 1 or 2 questions that may pop up in a poll. You can put your hand up and you can join us on the microphone. You can also put your thoughts and comments into the chat. And also, if you'd like to answer the poll, we can do that. That said, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get this started. I see we've already got a hand raised. Alan, you ready to go here? All right, looking good. Well, everybody, here we go. Let's say hello to Alicia Foxworth, who's raised her hand. Can we get Alicia on the microphone here?
Hi, everybody. Yes, thank you so much. I enjoyed the reading. Congratulations, Alan, Bernice, Hannibal. This was awesome. And one of the things that really stood out to me that I enjoyed was the back and forth and how the Officer Cockburn and Mr. Soltani tried to disarm one another. You know, whether they were like, he was trying to psychoanalyze her, but she kind of like, you know, scoffed off at him. And then how she was, you know, attempting to reach for his soft center as well. But when she told the story about the cat, that was just hilarious for me. Really funny. That was, it might have been her soft point, but I love how you gave him, and this is my opinion, you gave him the power to actually start trying to disarm her and establish intimacy. But when he went for the police surveying her, I loved how he was using public knowledge about her, things that people use all the time. Psychics use it, you know, so-called psychics. But then when she saw the holes in his story, that was it. The gig was up. But all of the back and forth with trying to disarm one another and trying to reach for one another's soft points, the dialogue in that regard was very spot on. I enjoyed it.
Excellent. Thank you, Alicia. Yeah, very illuminating. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you that him using the publicly available knowledge, to me, the example that stands out most in my mind is, of course, from The Usual Suspects, the film The Usual Suspects, and Kaiser Sose, how he's just pulling stuff right there from the board. Just he's looking around, and that is kind of what was happening. It's like this doctor. It felt good. It felt organic and natural that he was trying to use his skills and whatever he could grasp, whatever he could see, whatever he knew to kind of get him through this situation. So that felt really good, Alan. So there we go. We have another voice to confirm how good that felt. So that's great. And good comments too about the dialogue. The dialogue, was really very nicely. Alicia, and we've got someone else there.
Okay, so we have some people that want to go on the mic, but before we get to more of those folks, I do want to read a couple of comments. We have Alicia Foxworth, who says, always glad to know people are responding to the email list. Thank you so much, Alicia.
Thank you. And we do, and Kim's right, you don't have to go on the mic, but we love it when you do. That makes the conversation way more fun. I guess, let's see. I know Alicia had her hand up, but let's get back to her in just a second. Let's go to Bill Vila, otherwise AKA known as 555.
Good afternoon from Hoboken, New Jersey. My first question, first of all, I came in slightly late, but I picked up the gist, Mr. Kilpatrick, to you as a playwright. I appreciate the cat and mouse. I read the flyer yesterday, so I got the idea of what I was walking into. But I had a feeling it was a little bit like watching a live session of Law and Order, which was cool in that respect because there is a lot of that. The interrogation is part of the formula, and it works very well for them, obviously. So, and it worked really well here. But I would like to ask a question to Miss Miller. Are you a Scorpio?
I'm actually a Virgo. Just had
Oh,
Virgo.
God. Yeah. I bring that up only because I'm a Cancer, so I know water signs very well. But I like the energy that you brought and Mr. Kilpatrick in her rendition as the officer trying to usurp authority. There were so many different nuances that were all enveloped in her performance. And I'm going to say this only because from a visual point of view, it was perfect. I mean, Miss Miller, you're a very dark-skinned Black woman who, of course, in this world, thinking about people like George Floyd who got murdered and all that kind of stuff. You're thinking about someone like you being able to usurp that authority upon someone who, in this particular case, also happens to be Caucasian. It's kind of reminds me of a movie with Halle Belafonte and John Travolta years ago, where basically the Black race controlled the white race. And it reminded me a little bit of that interrogation that you were conducting. But at the same time, I also said that there's some baggage going on here. I don't know, there's some baggage, and I wasn't sure where it was. And you started peeling that onion away slowly and emphatically during the course of this interrogation. And I use that word in quotes. But I enjoyed the cat and mouse. I enjoyed the energy. There were times that I was putting myself into the space of the doctor, thinking if that were me, how I would react as me, not as the character, but as me personally. And I'm gonna tell you right now, some of them actors were not suitable for public consumption. But that's another story. But thank you very much, Mr. Kilpatrick. Thank you, Bernice. Thank you, Avi and Garland. Great seeing you, kid. That's all I can tell you, son. And Mr. Hannibal, do you do radio? Because you do have one of those radio voices.
I did have a radio show here in Los Angeles on a community station called KQBH for about 5 years. And I am actually this week got approached by a voiceover agent. So I'm trying to use my instrument as best as I can.
Congratulations to that, sir. I appreciate the voice. And again, thank you very much for all that you brought to it. And Garland, I'll be keeping in tabs with you because I got stuff I want to talk to you about. And with that in mind, as you know, Garland, what I do when I'm not working as an actor is I'm also a long distance bus driver. I just came off 8 days off the road and I'm going back on the road tomorrow and I got to get some rest. So great watching. I'm glad I saw your post when I was actually on the job yesterday, and I'm glad I responded and got to see. So good luck to you, Mr. Kilpatrick. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I bow to you. And like Garland, his father said, but it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage. And I am a disciple of that. Be well and God bless.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you so much. Thanks for jumping. Thank you so much. It was great when I got your message on Thread. So I'm really glad you had a chance to make this. Yeah. And if you ever want a fabulous bus driver, Bill Vila is your guy. He is definitely the man. And right there. So Alan, there you go. More confirmation, right? That you're definitely on the right track here. That stuff is just, it feels organic. It's really flowing. It's really working very nicely. So that's really great. That's really wonderful. I see we have a hand up, Stacy Collins, our good friend Stacy. Hello, Stacy. Hi, Stacy.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Happy Sunday. And thank you so much for this play. I really enjoyed the dialogue, and it's amazing how much you got done in 1 hour, where I could really see the motivation of each of the characters and where they were coming, and also how they changed. My one question was, and maybe I'm tuned to 90-minute stories, but when the last turn came, I thought, oh, here we go. Now we're heading down the home stretch. And then it was over. And I was like, wait a minute. What happened? Was this really his porn in the thing? Are there cameras somewhere? Because in the US, there would be cameras, honey, let's be honest. And I think the UK is even more camered up than the US. So, I felt like I wanted to see the nice braiding of the end. I know that it left a lot of open questions where you can, well, she's right and he's wrong and it didn't work. But I also just think you could add an extra half hour or last act that would really drive it home, which is kind of what I was getting ready for.
Hey, so this, thank you, Stacy. Thank you very much. This is definitely an interesting question because I think I should say most people like to have stuff kind of wrapped up, if you will, not necessarily in a nice, pretty little bow, but just still, something that there's something a little disconcerting or unsettling for a lot of folks to not have certain questions, kind of to not get certain answers by the time, whatever is happening has finished. And so that's interesting. Now in my conversations with Alan, if I recall correctly, this was actually, because we did talk about this was actually a choice on Alan's part, was to leave it like that. And so I think you're being a bit you're feeling the way you're feeling, the question you're having. I think that's exactly what Alan was going for. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, but I think that is kind of what you were going for, right? So, uh, so part of it, I think, too, also allows us, the viewers, the listeners, to to feel some of that uncomfortability that was going on between these two people, because they both felt very uncomfortable at various times, and certainly Dr. Sultani. So, so and part of, I think, what make people uncomfortable in a situation like that is not knowing certain things, right? So Sultani doesn't know if what she's telling him is the truth or not. So he's on unsure ground. She doesn't know. But that's certainly for the person under interrogation. That's a big thing, not knowing what's going to happen, what they can do, what they can't do. So that's important. That's an important thing. So definitely, Alan, if that's what you're going for at the end there, I think you're on the right track for sure. Okay, sound good. Um, Thank you, Stacy.
And also we have a comment from Lagaris Underwood Bell, who says, "What a delight. So glad I had the privilege of discovering this outstanding presentation. Thanks for keeping me on your mailing list. Thank you so much." And now I'd like to turn it over to Rhonda Passion Handsome, who will go on the mic.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I would like to extend congratulations, as I wrote in the chat, to everyone involved in this. And I'm just delighted to see Vernice's beautiful face that it's been so long since we worked together, and to see her in such a strong lead role is just delightful. And Hannibal, congratulations on the narration. I really appreciated your tones. To the writer, I liked the fact that at the end there was no resolution for me, because as I live this life, I find that even when I think I know how things are, I find out that I'm not really certain about what I was just so sure about. And the tense back and forth between these two characters I found so intriguing. And like 555, I found myself identifying with both characters and trying to figure out how I would be in that situation, because it was so compelling, and I felt like this could actually happen in real life. When you think of the corruption with authority, when you think of the terrorism, which is international, and when you realize how authority can be overstepped and how people can be framed so easily, I just love that you took those elements and said, "You figure it out."
Yeah, no, very true. You know what, Rhonda, you are so right on that. First of all, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. It's so always a pleasure to see you and have you and work with you, of course. And thrilled that you're able to connect. Now, you guys have to reconnect now. You guys have to go out for coffee, you and Bernice now or something, right? Because you're both in New York, so you guys have no excuse now. So, go grab 10 minutes, a cup of coffee somewhere. But no, this is yeah, this is so true. And in fact, I would venture to say that this exact near almost exact situation probably happens all the time, or at least far more than one might think. When you think about the millions and millions of people that are traversing the globe day in and day out, right? And with all those things going on that you mentioned, and which we were feeling directly in the sense of Avi is in Israel, is currently in Israel. And so we've been hearing about what's been, we've probably all been, hearing the news, if not outright following it, about what's going on there. So and he himself is not an Israeli citizen. He is a foreigner. He is actually from Australia. He is an Australian citizen who, yeah, or South Africa, excuse me. He's South Africa living in Australia, but he's South African. So he himself is a foreigner there himself. So there was definitely, he let us know very early on that he could relate to the situation and what was going on. So once again, Alan, and once again, here we go, more confirmation that this feels real, that you've really tapped into something here and you're really portraying something here. And thank you, Rhonda, for the comments. Yeah, certainly when I first saw the piece and read the piece, the dialogue, the back and forth, the whole cat and mouse, it was very, very intriguing. And Belinda's comments, thank you for those. Those are really great, because these are the areas that Alan is exploring with this piece, and I think it's a very nice, very good exploration.
Now we have a comment from Belinda Walker who says, "Thank you very much for a very compelling play, examining topics as varied as the nature of truth, the power of authority, and how our personal histories influence how we behave with each other." And another comment from Rhonda, brava, Bernice, so good to see you again. And in this intriguing two-hander, kudos to the writer, director, cast, and production.
Excellent. We've got a hand up. I think Byron's got his hand up.
Yes, thank you. Compliments to the writing as well. When the switch came back to the officer's power base, I was looking for one moment from her, because it seems like the writing was begging to have her recapture where she was examining her own flaw through this witness, and she had a chance to resolve for herself, if not emotionally, because she invested in her almost her confession during the switch time, that she was revealing some very inner issues for herself. And yes, it's probably quite true that, for those who are in this situation, I could imagine an officer interrogating a suspect and then realizing that much of what he's interrogating is in front of him is more about his own life as much as it is the victim or the crime that's in front of him. So it's really, I mean, it's a challenge, especially to write that, because it brings us back to her story. It's whose story is it? Is it his story or is it her story? It's in the resolve of the case itself. Well done, though. Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Byron. That is really interesting. In fact, we had some conversation about this, that really the character that's of the two, Henrietta, the officer, she's really the one driving. She's driving this train. She is really she's driving everything. And it's very interesting to see what she goes through and to see those moments. And perhaps there is an opportunity for something like, some exploration along the lines of what you're talking about, Byron. So, Alan, that's something for you to think about, and consider it may, how how you want to shape that, where you want to shape that that part of the exploration, right? So but very true, very true. Good comments. Good comments. Go ahead.
I do want to read a comment from someone who had to dip out, but she sent me an email. She says, this is Theophania. She says, thank you so much for inviting me. She goes, she loved how for a second it appeared that the gentleman almost had the Officer Cockburn, on her heels and even had me thinking she was going to jail until she figured out he was lying. Then she got the upper hand back and took the power right back. I was shook. That was so good. The actors were great. Bravo. And she goes, I even saw Mr. Byron right there. So thank you so much for your comments. And please feel free to put your comments in the chat or the Q&A. Now, Alan, did you have any comments that you wanted to make?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to thank Garland and you, Kimberly, for giving me this opportunity to share my work. And I want to express kudos to the cast, to Avi and Bernice, and to Hannibal for a very exceptional performance of that piece. The Scorpio's Tale was written about 15 years ago, actually, and the draft sat in my drawer for a very long time, collecting dust. And then one day I brought it out and I took a hard look at it, and I said, this play still has something to say, because it speaks about racism, xenophobia, it speaks about class conflicts, all of the issues that are part of our conversations on both sides of the Atlantic. And I should tell you that this play was inspired actually by an actual incident that involved myself. It took place almost 40 years ago in another country, not in the UK, but at an airport which I shall go unnamed. I, as a graduate student, was pulled over, detained, taken to an interrogation room, much like the one in the play, and by the local police, who suspected that, based largely, I think, on the color of my skin, that I was some kind of terrorist. So that's the inspiration for Scorpio's Tale. And the thing that impressed me about that experience, and still impresses me, is that whenever you give someone a badge or a uniform, which allows them to express authority, it often opens up a kind of Pandora box of their hidden prejudices. And this, as we know, often leads to victimization. And that's really the dynamic that drives this play.
Mm-hmm. No, well, see, there you have it. So here we have the inspiration is an actual real incident. So once again, there's right here, there's proof that this kind of thing happens. But also, what you said about the badge, giving people badge and authority, and what that can open up, that takes me right to, what is it? I believe it's the Stanford experiment, the famous Stanford experiment, where researchers took the participants and broke them up into, or actually faked out the participants, had them be in charge, have the authority to give the electric shocks, and what people did and how people did that. So this is a very real thing, and it's something that I think we as a people, we as a society one of the things we should absolutely be exploring and looking at and trying to understand better, because it does have such great effects, can have such great effects on people and their lives. So this is very interesting. It's still absolutely, and especially in today's world, in today's climate, where terrorism is still considered such an issue. So real good. Vernice, I'm curious, I'd love to hear from you. Any thoughts you'd like to share with us?
Probably too many.
Well, first of all, before you go on, I want to just add on to the praise. You were so wonderful. Thank you so much. Your reading was, you just took it out there. You really took it to the heavens.
Thank you. Well, Alan gave us a lot to work with, that's for sure.
He did. He did.
And it's interesting, since we started working on this, being able to relate to both characters, Alan, because I too have been in a situation, where I've been pulled over. Once when I was traveling across the United States, and I went into one city, bought a piece of luggage, and so when I was traveling out of that city, I had additional luggage, and I was seated on the plane, and I'd been traveling on land with Wynton Marsalis. He doesn't like to fly, so we drive between locations, and then I was coming back to New York, and I'm sitting on the plane, and the flight attendant came over to me, called me by name, and asked me to step out. And I stepped out, and these burly guys were there, and they took one look at me and said, "Never mind." And I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! You called me out. What's going on?" And because I had that additional piece of luggage and the different cities I'd been through, they wanted to eyeball me to make sure I wasn't a mule.
Yeah.
And something about, I guess, I don't know how I was dressed, or I don't know what it was. Once they saw me, they made that split-second decision that never mind. But for that moment, I mean, I was like terrified. At first I thought maybe Wynton sent something, and I'm, maybe it's from them. And then I realized, oh, this has nothing to do with the production and everything to do with something else here. So I've had that terror of being that person singled out. And I've also been the person whose luggage got switched, where I bought a very, very fancy, expensive set of luggage, and got into, I think I was in Zurich, and I walked out of the airport with my fancy set of luggage, thinking no one else had that. Got outside, and my phone rang, and I had someone else's luggage that was just like mine. So as I was first reading the play, I thought, oh yeah, I know how this happens. But then also relating to Henrietta in that, coming from being a New Yorker and the kind of relationships I've had to the cops here, my brothers had, when I see the cops, it's like I'm pulling out my camera, and
Right.
but and so I've had a very adversarial relationship towards cops until I started teaching. I teach at the criminal justice school in New York, and several years ago, one of my students, after he had graduated, having done theater with me, he called me at like 3 a.m, and he's like, "Professor, I'm taking you on a ride along." And I was like, "Huh?" And he's like, "Yeah, you're gonna be with me." And at 3 a.m, in my warm bed under my duvet, he took me through a stop that he had to make. And I was so nervous for him, walking out of the cop car, going to someone who he didn't know what to expect. And I was just praying he was coming back. But it was the first time that I had to extend myself to feel compassion for someone who was an officer. And that completely changed my relationship to my students, who are, they come from, a lot of them from South America, wanting to help fix the world, right? And they're going to put on these uniforms and be different. So it was very interesting for me reading this and having the ability to relate to both characters. And what I particularly liked, Alan, was that within an hour, Henrietta was able to take that so much journey. And I know when this is actually produced, that the character can go even further. I mean, we're just scraping the top, right? And I as an actor, I appreciated the fact that it wasn't one tone, one note, but that she was able to take a ride.
Mhm.
So this really, as an actor now, as an actor hearing these words and having the delivery of these words, how did they feel to you? Did they feel, did you get authentic? Did you get organic? Did it feel like, especially considering with your experience that you just described to us?
Yeah, it was really interesting. I it's as an actor, what I felt like for the reading, I could have taken, could have taken another week of rehearsing to get this character in my mouth because she speaks differently than I do. And the way she's written, the precision with which she speaks is different from how I speak. And so there's a rhythm to her that I don't know if I nailed it, but I felt like I at least was able to acknowledge that her speech pattern is different from how I normally speak. And so that was exciting, as an actor, because it's the material that we want to have, that I'm getting to create a character. And so the question was I able to find an organic connection to that rhythm that's different from my own personal rhythm? And I mean, for me, that's the fun of performing. It's like, the playwright gives me something and I got to get to put myself aside and see how much of me I can actually take, and then how much I've got to construct. And then time becomes, the factor that we have enough time to do that. Like the next layer also, the fact is, she's British, right? So whether she's Caribbean British or whatever, there's a certain cadence and a certain pattern that informs the character. And like I said, I didn't have the time to go back there and pull an authentic British accent. What I would have done today would have been more distracting than not.
Yeah, it's well, accents are always, trying to do an accent other than our own is always going to be a challenge, even for the best, actors out there. It's always going to be a challenge in trying to really get it to a point where actual people with that accent can go, yeah, okay, I buy that, can be very challenging. Absolutely. And so everybody knows we had only 3 rehearsals. We had 3 rehearsals. So what you saw was after 3 rehearsals, 3 great solid rehearsals, but still only 3 rehearsals. And Bernice, I've said personally, I wish we could have had another week as well to work with you, because what you were pulling out, I mean, where you went with what Alan gave us. And this is also a testament to Alan's writing here too, as you said, the precision and the good strong foundation, where you went from our very first rehearsal to our last rehearsal just this morning before the reading, and then to the reading. I mean, oh my God, you traversed like light years. Like you went from one galaxy to another. You went from here to Alpha Centauri. It was like amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that again, that's not only a testament to you and your skill as an actor, and I also know you're a director as well. You're an accomplished director, so you also have that perspective, which I know helps fuel your acting and helps you understand the choices and make great choices. But also, it's a great testament to Alan's writing here, the solidity of it, right? That there's, I said, I love the fact that you use the word precision, and that's something that we actually talked about in the rehearsal. Because one of the first things I said is I want us to strive for a word perfect rendition, because exactly what we've got here. These are very specific choices that this writer has made that he needs to hear in order to determine whether they're the right choices, right? So, and I feel like today, Alan, we've gotten a lot of confirmation that the choices you've made with this, no matter when you wrote it, are very strong, very, very strong. And I'm guessing, I'm betting that there's more you want to do with it now that you've had a good
Oh,
a good
yes.
a good hearing of it, right? So and of course, I will extend the invitation when you're ready. We can do another reading of it, of the rewrite, and
Thank
because we
you.
want to, yes, absolutely, because this is part of our helping the playwright with the development of the piece. So we can come back and we can do this again, which I sincerely hope we do, because this is such a wonderful piece and we're so thrilled to open with it. So, but this is good. Do you feel like you've gotten some good confirmation about the choices, that they're solid, that you've made?
Yeah, I really appreciate the feedback. Everything that people say kind of confirms some of my own suspicions about where I'm going with this, and it really helps me refine the piece, I think, so I can sit down and tweak it a little bit to make changes, and in some cases maybe change a considerable section or so. We'll see.
Well, you've got a lot to play with. I mean,
Oh,
you've given not only us, as actors and directors, a lot, but you've given yourself quite a bit to play with there. It really is wonderful. I want to see more of your work now. I want to read more of your work now. So this has been really good. Is Hannibal still with us, or did Hannibal have to dip
No,
out?
I think he left.
Had to dip out because I was wanted to see if he had any thoughts. Well, this is great. Is there any other things? Any other comments?
And Stacy also says, thank you, great play. Love the dialogue and characters. I just wanted to live in the world longer.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Well, and that's a great testament too, right there. That's some really great feedback to have too. So you've got room to expand a little bit, if you want to. And the fact, that's a great comment, that she wanted to live in that world longer. I can definitely understand that. That's great. I think that's a great feeling to have as an audience member. Right?
Plus, don't forget, 50th anniversary. Make that donation. Make your pledge today. This is how we started off, folks. We start off with a great reading. Look, it's from our global community that has responded to us. And this is how we kick off, again, our 50th anniversary season. Now we're driving this all the way through next year. Help us raise that $50,000. Help us continue to give birth to new plays, new writers, new work, new information, and the truth is still the truth, from the page to the stage.
Thank you, Byron. Yes, Byron. Yep, Byron's referring to our fundraiser to celebrate our 50th anniversaries, our two 50th anniversaries, our first reading, and getting our 501c3 status, where we have challenged ourselves to raise $50,000 by the end of 2025, $1,000 for every year. I don't think that's a lot to ask, but so that's what we're shooting for. So if you'd like to help out, yeah, please, anything and everything is appreciated, and you'll be able to keep in touch with us and help us continue to do what we do here. This is the opening of our 2024-2025 season. So we have 9 more readings between now and June of 2025 to go. So you'll be hearing more from us. If you haven't signed up for our newsletter, you can go to our website, the FSWW. .org, and connect with us. And Kimberly, you got some other announcements, I think?
Yes, I just want to remind everyone about our next reading. Who You Kiss for Fun by Emma Wiley will be Sunday, October 26th at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yes, and also I realize this is kind of an informal, kind of a soft announcement of this. You'll be hearing more. We'll be sending out more about this. But the FSWW is now a couple of things new for us. We've begun to offer what we're calling script enhancement services to playwrights. So for you can rent us by the hour, and we'll take you through. We'll offer you dramaturgy. We can do script formatting. We can talk about characters and plot, and all sorts of stuff. And also, we've got 2 online classes that we're starting up this fall. One is going to be an acting class taught by Allison Mills Newman, who has the distinction of being the first Black teenager in America to have a regular recurring role on a nationally syndicated television series. The show was Julia, and she was the 14-year-old babysitter for the single mother Julia. And she also was a member of the Frank Silvera Writers Workshop Theater of the Frank Silvera's Theater of Being. way back in the day in Los Angeles. He mentored her. She was in his acting class. He taught her, and she has since gone on to teach his methods, as well as she's gone on to be an actor and a director and a filmmaker and a producer. And so we're going to be doing a 6-week online class with her, acting with Allison Mills Newman. And then the other one is What Makes a Good Play, currently called What Makes a Good Play, Play Analyzation, with Professor Vera J. Katz. And for those of you who don't know her, 32 years at the Howard University School of Drama, started in 1968 in the midst of all that was going on there. A lovely little Jewish lady who showed up at Howard University to work with us Black and brown folk, and everybody fell in love with her. And she's also 22 years at Duke Ellington School of the Arts, and a fabulous director in her own right, and also acting coach to people like Chadwick Boseman and Taraji P. Henson. So, and a number of other people.
And Felicia Rashad, too.
And Felicia Rashad. The list is far too long. And Debbie Allen.
Yes,
the list is far too long to go into. But so we're going to be starting up. So we're going to be having that course. So be on the lookout. We'll be sending out information about that, and the fees and all of that sort of stuff. So super excited about this 2024 season. Oh my God, I'm so excited. So thank you. Any final thoughts?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap for Scorpio's Tale. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you being here. We know you could be in so many other places. Keep an eye out for our next readings. Check out our websites. Tell a friend, and we'll see you next time. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Alan. Take care, everybody. Thank you, Byron. Thank you, Bernice. Bye-bye.